Hey, okay, this is silly. I was just saying how I figured out StreamYard finally, and I made it through with no troubles. And I've been talking to myself for 5 minutes, and I was not on the actual StreamYard, so the picture had not been up. It was thank you. Someone had said Yargi said, "Oh, it's Michael Torrens Rex." Yes, and then it clicked me like, "Oh, my face is not up there. It's just the pictures of the racks." Okay. Well, maybe next time I'll get it. Anyway, it's good because I wasn't saying anything important. It was pretty, pretty nonsensical. But now we have a couple questions, so I could go back through. That's pretty good. I'm going to start with how many mids should I scoop? Because I went on a 3.5 minute uh, monologue about you should scoop all the mids. Yeah. Anyway, thank you guys for joining in. That's very nice of you. Sunday morning, uh, I've got my Big Hairy Guitars prototype mug with my coffee, which I love so much. Oh, and I'm running out. I should have had a backup coffee as well, sitting there. But anyway, what do we got here? I think Michael Torrin is traveling today, so unfortunately he won't be with us. We should just do a team up one day and get Torrin on here too. My favorite overdrives with the Deliverance. So the Deliverance is really great. I've had that head for ages. It goes to like super balls, high gain stuff, but I almost never use it that way. I love it in its clean and low gain stuff. I think it's incredibly underrated. There's a switch that goes less and more on there. So when I first bought it, I bought it. It was a VHT Deliverance. That's how long ago I got it. Bought it from Guitar Center, Sherman Oaks, and that switch was broken. I didn't know, so it was always like on the less, and I was like, "Well, this amp is amazing, and I love everything about it." So I didn't care until I realized, like, "Oh, I'm not getting this more side." And there's a whole other side to it. So I always run it in sort of like a ACDC-ish level of gain there. My favorite overdrives with it. So with overdrives, mostly I don't usually love overdrives that are really giving the distortion. I want like color and level and a little boost and stuff. So I would say the one I've used the most with that is the EP booster from Exotic. That's that tiniest little guy with one knob that's supposed to simulate the preamp section of a Echoplex. So that sounds awesome, and it just pushes the level to wherever you want it to get. Anything else down here? Really, the sort of the drives I've been having and using for that kind of stuff, they're all kind of boosts, like EP booster, as I mentioned. The RC booster from Exotic is also great. That's more of a sweetness thing. It adds a real sweetness if you want to go that direction. Um, I got a Greer Lightspeed, which I'm learning. I like that. What was the recent one that I also have here that I've been super digging? Um, the this I just got back. I thought it was broken. This is a Vemaram Booty G boost. 2 separate times I plugged it in. Absolutely no sound. I took it over to Dave's and they plugged it in and it worked perfectly. And I look like an idiot. So I don't know. Maybe I had the guitar like not plugged in somehow. Terrible. But anyway, the boost I would recommend for anything. The first one, overdrives and stuff. That EP booster is a legend. It's really one of the best pedals ever. Super cheap. Like I think you could get them used for less than $100. Josh 5150. Can you recommend a head that can clean and lead Luke Huff 80s tones? You may be my best bet is custom audio PT 100. You know what? I should borrow one from Pete, and see if he'll let me borrow like his PT 15 or something. Because I've never actually played through one. I've heard it a million times. I've never played through one. I played through the bunch of the custom audio stuff, which I love. Um, it's funny. Okay, so only because you said 80s tones. Okay, let's get super techie and nerdy here. Lukather was like a Fender Deluxe up until we're going to say like 83, 84 ish. And then it sort of transitioned. There's always, Marshalls around and stuff. But then it sort of, there was that transition and Huff came in, and Huff, I think, was using this Mesa Studio preamp. And then Lukather had like the Mark IIs. And so it was like that mid 80s Huff and Luke tone. It's very Mesa Boogie, like the 84 to 86 is super Mesa. And then it shifted in around 87, 88 to like Soldano. So, and then like things got fatter and you get into the custom audio stuff, like around like Kingdom of Desire and stuff. So depends on where in the 80s you want to land. PT 100's awesome. Astro 20 is awesome. That'll do that kind of stuff too. You maybe find I don't know what the good Mesa option is for that Mark stuff. Now, the studio preamp still sounds amazing, but the lead stuff it's like you set one tone and it's usually the clean tone, and that's as good as it gets, and then you leave it there. Trying to dial two tones on the Mesa studio preamp is a pill. It stinks. Oh, a whole thermos of coffee. Yeah, I mean, super ill prepared. To be honest, I've been wanting to do the live, like find a time to do a consistent live stream. It's hard to do and hard to find a good time. I think Pete Thorne, I mean, this is obviously Pete's slot, but I think Pete is on tour, so his schedule is out of whack from his normal days. I actually have YouTube open on the side in case if Pete logs in, I'm just going to log off out of respect for his for the goat's time slot. We'll see what happens. Josh, Wagner Fish and the custom audio electronics are unattainable. They really are now. What's a good alternative? Man, the Wagner Fish I've seen from like $4,000 up to like $8,000 or something like that. I was, and the CAEs rarely turn up too, and they're usually $3,000 to $5,000. I look back and like right before everything, this is before the whole shutdown of stuff and mega gear boom. And like I flipped some, I don't have as many preamps as I used to. Like some I just go through and I just don't have the space. And I'm not really like a collector like that. So something like the Groove Tube Trio, I think I moved that on to Michael Torn. I mean, he's the best because, he's got this sort of like, it's like a bald eagle rescue sort of thing for preamps. So it's nice to be able to save stuff over there. But I have a lot of stuff that came in it, and I just like $500. And then now you see like a Hafler Triple Giant for $2,000 or something. That's like, you shouldn't pay $2,000 for that. Silly. getting back to the Bogner fish, I mentioned that to Reinhold. Like, "Do you see the prices on these things?" And he was as surprised as anybody also. It's like, "So you're gonna rebuild it, do a reissue?" And I don't think that's happening. He's got a lot on his plate. I was kind of hoping for maybe like just do like a one rack space, like a 2 channel or something like that. That would be super cool. But getting back to alternatives, I mean, really, in terms of current run stuff, the synergy's pretty good. It's not like a low tier thing. They don't have a CAE, but there are some, like, Salvation Mods makes a CAE that was pretty solid. Like, it sounded like the CAE. It just didn't sound like the best one I've heard. It was solid. And then there's Bogner Ecstasy module, I believe. Pretty sure. So that would be pretty good alternative. The Bogner Fish is a really interesting kind of odd. Actually, both of those are semi-unique kind of sounding preamps in that you just can't go grab something that has that characteristic. I would also throw the Demeter into that lineup of, like, you don't know how else to get that sound. I will say, like, I have this kind of devil angel on my shoulder thing with modeling and capturing and things like that. Um, I started doing the Kemper captures of preamp rigs, which is like preamp into power amp into speaker and all that. And that made me feel like, all right, well, I'm capturing this thing, and they're also super rare. It's so hard to find them, and then it's hard to dial them in and all this stuff. So, I have a bunch of Kemper stuff, and then I redid that with. I'm still in work in progress on that, but the Tonex, which, Tonex Kemper debate of which is better. It's like they're just kind of different. Neither is really slam dunk better than the other. But I captured all the Tonexes direct out of the preamp. So, and that was really for me, because I don't want to have to go and yank like the triaxis out of my rack and then get the power amps, and then if I just want to do like add one part or something, and then I got to put it all away. So now I could just go to the Tonex and I could run it direct, or you could run the Tonex into like a effects return of an amp and really get, like, it gets real close. I think all of the modeling gets 90% there. So, when I say it sounds just like it sounds just like it, but it's always missing something. If you could use the real thing, use the real thing. It doesn't negate the modeling, and the modeling doesn't negate the real thing. So a good alternative, maybe Synergy, maybe my Tonex packs or the Kemper packs. And if you're just using a DAW, get the my overloud THU stuff. That stuff sounds really good because I was able to, in the box, in the DAW plugin, I'm able to dial in the sound so much more. You just have infinite resources. That's pretty cool. And then there's some other, Soldano X88's coming at some point, the new one. And it's good. It's real good. Like, legit. Johnny Dubai. Hi from Scotland. Oh, man. I would love to go to Scotland. I've been close. Not quite there yet, though. Have I tried the Ingle Steve Morse? It's just amazing. Again, that's one that I've heard, but I haven't played through. And I'm a huge Steve Morse fan. And every time I've heard that, it's like, I like what that's doing. It has a big sort of mid-range. It cracks like a Marshall, but it's got all the gain you could want and is heavy. It sounds real cool. Yeah, I'm always looking, but I don't know if I'm, because I've been demoing a lot of amps lately, is hard for me to go and reach out and spend 2 or 3 grand on a new amp when it feels like, and this is not a complaint, it's actually like, wow, this is amazing. Um, it feels like sometimes like there's something new I'm gonna get to demo, a new toy in the next month. So like that itch gets scratched um, in the best way. So I haven't really been running out to get new amps and stuff because I get to try some really cool stuff. Ben Coombs. Yeah, Lawrence Petros Designs. I think that's what the D is. LPD makes great boosts. He does, and he makes great drive pedals too. So, yeah, they're great. They're all great. Everything he makes, I've heard, is really excellent. Mm. There's a Bogner Fish preamp available at Captain's Guitar Lounge for 5 grand. Just saw it sitting on a shelf, and it'll probably still sit there on a shelf. I bought mine for 2 grand from a dude in Hawaii, and it's the reissue from obviously from Bogner. So it wasn't like an '80s one. He did another run, I think late '90s or early 2000s. So it's mint. It was really great condition, and I paid 2 grand for it, and that was very luxurious. I was just like, I'm doing this. I've wanted to fish my whole life, and that's one I'll never sell, even if it didn't work. I just think it's like the coolest looking thing ever. Dustin Wilburn, hey Michael, just took delivery of a new Alta 100. I'm super impressed to say the least. Do you have any plans to try one out? Actually, that is Head First, and they just reached out to me, so I'm planning on talking to them next week. So we'll see. Puerto Rico and Nakasa. Friedman Amps. Hey, hello. Hello, hello. What's up, Dave? Just saw Dave. Gosh, I think it was yesterday. No, Friday. Haven't seen him in a while in person. I watch Tone Talk every time I can anyway, so it kind of feels like I do see him. Mm-hmm. Oh, thanks, Ben. Yeah, please hit the like. I'm in a weird place with my YouTube channel. When I started it, I felt like I had a vision of like, hey, there's rack stuff, and people need to know that there's this cool rack stuff. And I've gone through most of the rack stuff that I'm interested in. And Dave actually let me borrow a Yamaha D1500 delay. So I've been wanting to try one of those for ages. So I'll do a video on that. Trying to decide if it's better just to do just the video on that or like compare it to some of the others. The other iconic delays of that time, like the PCM 42 and SD 3000 and TC 2290. The comparison ones they end up being a brain buster because I always mess something up, and when I'm editing, I'm like, oh, I gotta go back and do it again. Stephen Douglas, yeah, that the Astro gets killer Huff and Luke leads. Maybe my new favorite for that. Yeah, the red channel is like very SLO, and Lukather and Huff were using Soldano amps. Huff had a Soldano modified Marshall, and Luke had an SLO 100 and an X88R during a particular era. During an era that I think Luke sounded the best, like absolutely was spot on in that somewhere between like right around 88. His stuff was so dialed in and big and fat. It was awesome. Yergi. Hello. Hey, Michael, are you familiar with Alice in Chains' Blue Gives Way to Blue album? I don't think that's the right name. Maybe there was a typo in there. I think it's Blue Gives Way to Black. Uh, Hang on, I'm just double checking. Because am I losing my mind? Discography. Black gives way to blue. That's it. Black gives way to blue. Yeah, that's a good one. I like that. Especially for bands that kind of circled back and had made an album that they haven't made an album in a long time. I thought that was a great offering from them, and it sounded awesome. Very cool. I think I talked to someone and they said that there's either a new Alice in Chains album. Maybe it's not Chains. Maybe it's just a solo album. It's got really big guitars and stuff. So I don't know. Hopefully. Oh, Pete goes live at 11:45. Oh, that's good to know. Right. Yargi, you got a custom audio 3 Plus SE last night? Do you want to share how much? Oh, there you go. Like 2,500 pounds. That's really good. I sold mine for I think like 1,200 bucks and instantly regretted it. And then I had to work a trade and a sale and a spin around to get it back. I did get it back, but I lose so much money on gear and selling and then trying to get it back and regret. Internationally Insane Studios. Very nice of you to say. He says, I'm wondering if anyone has listened to the song Acceptance by Michael Nielsen. So damn cool. Thank you so much. Yeah, I have a quote unquote my single on Spotify that's just under Michael Nielsen. And I am working on my solo album, which is mostly songs that were started as gear demos that I've extended and going back to, and I have drums being cut next week by the great Aaron Sterling, who's like one of the best current drummers out there. He's like, in my book, he's like the Tom Bukovac of drummers right now. So great. So yeah, I'm working on it. It took a minute to figure out what it is. So like I could have just thrown together I have a lot of demos. I could just put all that out. But I didn't really want to because it doesn't really represent who I am, to be honest. Like what I know like a lot of people reach out to me and they're like, I have the most metalist amp. Here you go, because that is part of what I do and what I love. Um, like Pantera and Testament and Shiva and like I love all the heavy stuff. But I usually listen to that when I'm upset or angry or whatever, or sometimes when I'm trying to go to sleep, strangely. Um, but I would say like my day-to-day stuff is I listen to Michael Landau all the time. He for sure, between him and Luke, they're the people I listen to the most, followed maybe by Robin Ford and then Eric Johnson. And with Eric, I just listened to Via Musicom and Venus Isle. Like that's my two Eric albums. So it's all, and then Sean Lane, and it's all like a little slightly jazz fusiony and kind of chill. And I think that's kind of where I'm leaning, or I know that's where I'm leaning the album to, is to kind of represent what I would want to listen to and have melodies and feel like songs. And there's not a lot of heavy stuff. There's a couple things based on the Friedman demos, a couple of them which I particularly liked, but I'm sort of revamping those a bit. So so that song Acceptance will be on the album, but there'll be a slightly new version of it at some point when I can get this out. There's a lot of other work I have going on, so I'm trying to juggle and try and get it in there. I'm not really sure how to put it out. Like, it's also a weird time. Like, I could do the album and I could put it on Spotify, and then it's like womp womp. Great. So I'm thinking maybe do something like um put it on Spotify later and do like maybe Bandcamp, and then with it, like if someone buys it on Bandcamp, also include tabs. Um, it's not like I'm super shredder that you probably couldn't figure it all out with pretty easily. But maybe the tabs would be more for me so I could relearn the tunes. And then I was also thinking of going back through maybe each song and doing like, remember the DVDs used to have commentaries, and go through and I could show some parts and that kind of stuff, which I think might be more interesting than just throwing it up there on Spotify. I don't know. Then after that album's out, I think then I'll just do a drop of all the other like gear demos that I liked, that even if they're a minute 45 seconds, like I'm not going to go extend a lot of them, and just have here's 20. And that I just throw on Spotify because I would like to have those all in one place too. I work hard on them, and I really, I work hard on them. So it would be nice to have them not just disappear into the ether. And a lot of the stuff, it's kind of like what I want to hear. So that's why I write music, even if it's for a game or a movie or whatever. I'm writing it in the mindset is what would I like to hear here. So I'm my biggest fan. I also hate my music, so it's like I mentioned before, it's like I have an angel and a devil there all the time. I play what I want to play and play how I want it to sound, and I also hate it. All right, moving on. Weighty. Do I have a secret for dialing in the GNI vintage fuzz distortion? Pick one of those up as well as the Morgan Mark II. Nice, man. My favorite of the Morgan pedals is the Morgan Fuzz, and mine just died. And I use it all the time, and so I have to either get it repaired, or I could probably buy another one cheaper than getting it repaired. Those never took off, but they're good. And then that GNI vintage, Andy Timmons uses them now, but I've had mine for ages. It's huge. It's big red orange pedal with a couple different. It's like two pedals in one, a fuzz and a distortion. I think the distortion never worked for me. I think it's supposed to be like a distortion plus. It's always a little fuzzy, woolly, and a little like loose, and like just not awesome. The fuzz is awesome. It's an octave fuzz, essentially, like an Octavia. So my secret is I never use the distortion, and then the octave fuzz, just go have a blast because you just use it for that, and it's one of the best octave fuzzes. But it weighs like 5 pounds. It's so heavy. I think it's all enclosure, totally bulletproof, but to put it on a board where you're going to travel, it's so heavy. Not that I'm traveling. Is the best way to use a Syn 2 with a fractal for effects, or keep an analog dry path? Will be to use as a mixer, or is the effects loop parallel? I do not think the effects loop is parallel to the best of my memory. I don't want to run and have to take a look. I don't think it's parallel. I think it's series. Doing a parallel effects loop, from what I've talked to from some engineers, it's a little tricky. Not as tricky. It's just not. It's just another thing to deal with. The serial effects loop is a more straightforward situation. And then I don't know. There's just so many ways to use Syn 2. You could go Syn 2 into the Axe effects and then use the Axe effects for a cab IR and the effects, and then that's it. You're good to go and done. Straight into a mixer. I typically use my Syn2 into the Fryette power station as the power amp. And then sometimes, often, okay, this hand is the power station. So I go into the power station, out of the power station, back into itself, so that I have a power amp as part of the load box, or the loaded down sound. And then I'll use an IR in the box if I'm going to re-record it or something like that. Modeling is like having sex with a condom. It's still sex, but you know, it's that's pretty on point. Pretty on point. Strapped. Live in a country, some financial status is cracked. I'm sorry, man. Can't afford gadgets. But I finally bought a Valvuton GP200. Any thoughts about it? I've heard that being mentioned lately. But I have not tried one, to be honest. It looks cool. It looks like it's got some nice features and stuff like that. So I wouldn't be surprised because, if anyone's watched my channel in the last year, they probably recognize that I'm a fan of Hotone stuff, which is maybe a little more expensive than Valiton, Valiton, but I think it's great. So I'm sure you could get some great tones out of that GP200. Move on. How do I feel about the Deliverance module compared to the amp? So much time has passed after your video comparison. Yeah, so they're similar. Here's the trick with Fryette amps, and this is my opinion. I'm not an engineer or an amp builder, but I think so much of what works in Fryette's amps is the power amp. And I think he's a master power amp engineer. So his amps, it's 120 watts. And I think that's where he's working his real magic. And there's preamp, of course, there's the preamp section, but I think the power amp and the headroom and the way he dials that stuff in is such a big character of that. And it's not to take away anything from his preamp design, like I mentioned, because it gets high gain and it's cool, and that sounds all really good. So the module, it does sound like the Deliverance, but depending on what power amp you're running it through, it sounds more or less like the Deliverance. So if you like the gainier side of stuff, and there is a general characteristic that is similar. But what is really special about the Deliverance, in my book, is like 120 watts of awesome. Yeah, it's I think it's the important part of the Deliverance. But it's the module is good. It's one of my favorite modules. I think it's balanced and it sounds like an amp and stuff. I think he did a really great job on that. But are you plugging it into a 100-watt 6550 power amp section? That would change its whole vibe versus plugging into like a 20-watt section. What FRFR do I recommend for plugging the quad cortex in for plug and play? Plug and play for home or live? For home, I recommend getting studio monitors because I'm guessing maybe if you're at home, you're not going to be putting out the same kind of volume, like mega earth-shaking volume, and you want it to sound good and cool, and you could get a pair of studio monitors for the same price as you pay for a powered FRFR, and then you'd be in stereo. And I think you could still get to levels that would be uncomfortably loud for you to sit and listen to. Like JBLs, they make some really good inexpensive ones. KRK, inexpensive ones. Yeah, I mean, it changes when you get into a little more expensive stuff. Or if you're playing live and you just need mass volume to punch you out, Atomic. Hey, Scott, what would I get for a small tube combo amp? Small tube combo amp. I have a vintage Fender Princeton that's incredible. I mean, it's like you plug in, you're like, yeah, that's record. That's a record. This other one sounds like a record. Change it. Barely have to touch anything, and it sounds amazing. And then I'm enjoying the Rev D25 combo, but I did change the speaker to a Celestion V. I did not like the 12-inch vintage 30 in there at all. I thought it sounded bad. Just a bad pairing for what I was trying to hear out of it. When I switched to the V, which was an inexpensive speaker, it was like $120 or something for a speaker. It's not a $250 Celestion Gold. It helped so much, and now I really enjoy playing that through that. So yeah, I've got a little like Princeton D25 left right going. That's small tube combo. I can't think of too many other tube combo amps that I would consider like small and decently light. I mean, I could tell you like a Soldano SLO 30. Sure, that's small tube combo. I think, do they still make combos of like the little sister? Hang on, checking this out. Sweetwater. Because I played with a dude when I was doing dad band, and he had, I think, a B50 combo. Maybe it was a Runt 50. No, it was a BE50 combo because he was a rock star, like a legit rock star, and that sounded amazing. I'm like, oh, I'm doing all this work on the other side, and he's sounded great through a 112 combo. Oh yeah, Dirty Shirley 40 watt. So it depends on the price point. 1,600 bucks. Friedman Little Sister. Ooh, combo. I played through that a lot. I have a separate 112 and a Little Sister head. That is one of. I'll go through a bunch of amps, and then I go back to that and go like, all right, kind of knocked it out of the park on this Little Sister 20 watt. It holds its own with anything. Oh, Dave says that on Black Gives Way to Blue. Blue Gives Way to Black? Now I forgot it. Black Gives Way to Blue. That they blended a bunch of amps on that. It's a great tone. So cool. Oh, here comes my dogs. Sorry. Recently got. I am so sorry about my dog. There's neighbors walking their dogs across the street. Angle Fire Iron Ball SE. Built-in delay and reverb. That's cool. I like Angle stuff. They're going nuts. Hang on, I'm gonna mute so I could yell to my dogs first. I don't know if that was effective. Nope, not effective. Oh, hello. Come here. Come here. Come here. You want to say hi? You're so big. This is Dodger. Oh yeah. Yes. Oh yes. Oh yep. You don't like being carried. I know. How about you? How about you, Mako? Come here. Come here. Yes, this is Mako. Yes. Hey, good morning, LPP. What's up, Lawrence? What is my 2 cents on the Mesa Formula preamp? I think Torin has that. I believe if it's that one that I'm thinking of, and that was fine. It was fine. It depends on the price, because that, if you're gonna pay $1,200 or something for it, I would not go in that range. But if you could get it for $300 to $500, then it's great. Chris Day picked up an Astro. Nice. Oh, that's good. I helped make that decision. Awesome. I really love that amp. I think that's really cool. And I think how they're handling moving Soldano forward is dope. Super cool. Mark says Dave's new Plex head is coming out soon. How is it gonna sonically compare to the fantastic BE50? All right, so when we were at NAMM, I got to play the Plex, and it's so funny because at NAMM, I'm hearing sound from every direction. When I'm at a dinner party, if there's music playing, I can't even think, and that's if there's one song playing. But at NAMM, my IQ goes to like 30. I'm just a dummy, and Dave's like, "Dude, play any Van Halen riff," and I was like, I can't think of a single Van Halen song. What has happened to me? Like, not a single one. Zero. But it's like I know a D chord, so I could play that. And it's so juicy. It's like you just dive in to like a vinyl record into your Van Halen past. I mean, it's so awesome. And he had the small box there too. And so I asked him like if we could set up an AB, because in a way, you go, here's a 50-watt Plexi, and then here's a small box 50-watt. Like, will they sound the same? And then they didn't. I wouldn't say that. No, I didn't try the BE50, so I don't know. I could dial in my BE100 to sound really close to my 1971 Super Lead. Like quite close at certain volumes. I haven't tried it at full blast through 8 to 12-inch speakers or anything like that, because that would be impractical for me. But the Plex versus the small box, like the Plex was more juicy and more like swirly alive, and the small box was more like had a more, at least at that setting, like an AC/DC, like crank, like punch, and the Plex was more Van Halen-ish. I would guess there would be a little bit of that with like the BE50 too. BE50 also. The Plex it was like harmonically so rich and complex. Am I still using the React IR? There's a new one coming out, a V2. No, not right. I am. I like that, and I like Saint Rock. I think he's really a good designer. Unfortunately, I don't know if it's just the language barrier, but I don't think he knocks it out of the park in its user interface. In fact, I think like he should partner with someone that can really help that out. The React IR, it sounded good, and that had a pretty good interface too, but I just slightly preferred the Fryette load for that. So that's what I use 99% of the time, is the Fryette. But I'm I'm loyal but I'm also like not that loyal. So if someone put out a box that sounded better than the Fryette, I'm gonna have to jump ship because like it's part of the signal chain. You know, it's like it's a really important part. I love Steve though. He's my boy. Aristotle's Daukas. I hope I pronounced that right. Drinking beer. I'm gonna assume that maybe you're in a different part of the world, or maybe it's the hair of the dog. Middle pickup. Any tips for getting a UA aux box or Friedman IRX phase line for live in a stereo rig? Wondering how hard it would be. Well, I haven't tried that, so I don't know how hard it would be. So I don't know if it's just a matter of getting like a box, like a DI box sort of situation that has a phase switch. I'm going to tell you this other thing, but I don't know if it's just, you know, I know solutions, but sometimes my solutions are expensive. You know, Little Labs makes a thing called the IBP. The what does this stand for? Analog phase alignment tool, and it's a little box, so it'll change the phase, but it'll also flip phase continuously instead of just being like a full 128. What did I say? 180 degrees. It'll do it partially, or like you could really find the exact sweep of the phase. So there's a way to do it. That's my tip is, you know, if you have to get another box to throw in line, you might have to do that. Wonder why you need an aux box with the IRX. Are you doing the IR using the amp and the IRX? Because you could just use the IRs. I don't know. I have thought of doing a Discord channel. I have to look into that. I'll ask my kids. They'll know. Ben Coombs, Princeton. I'm sure that's small combo, but Princeton, yes. Princetons are so good. So good. Friedman said no small box, maybe. I don't know what that means. Oh, that's about the combo. Well, yeah, okay. So, but the runt combos sound ridiculously good, and the little sister sounds ridiculously good. Is there a JJ combo? That I'd seen one of those. Let's see. Friedman JJ combo. Yeah, JJ Jr. combo. Yeah. That's got the balls. Nice. Is a PV Classic 50 worth fixing? I don't know how hard they are to fix. That's I think the bigger question is like, do you have to spend a fortune, or is it a nightmare to fix? If the question is a PV Classic 50 worth using, then I would agree. I think, yeah, I think they sound really good and they're really underrated. As like a classic amp, we'll say it, like a ditch amp. I think a Class 50 is very good. Philippe, any thoughts on the new Soldano X88 IR? Yeah, it's great. It's really great. It's going to be, it's worthy of being called an X88, and it's better than the original X88. I think it's better because it sounds like the X88. It's just look, you get an amp and you're like, man, I love this amp. I just wish, just, what if it just, uh, and like, that's all fixed. Now you go like, oh, yeah, now it's it's what I had before, but anything I didn't like about what was there before is like better without losing what I had before. So yeah, it's gonna be a killer. Oh, the aux box is for my left amp, and the IRX would be my right amp. Oh, okay, okay. So then you're running two DIs, but you have amp like a tube head and a DI. I'm not sure. I think that might be a Ask Dave question for Tone Talk. But that Little Labs IBP, um, I think that would do it. That would set if it's a phase issue. If I don't know what the latency is on the aux box, but if it's just like a very small phase issue, I think that IBP will fix it. I don't know what the price is on those, but you obviously have a pretty decked out rig, so I applaud you for that. Great to see Marshall lowering prices in the US. Yeah, it looked like there was a price drop on some things, not everything. And from what I gather, that was they cut out a distributor, so they just passed the savings on to the buyer. I have not tried any of the Lurk stuff. I love Alex Lifeson. But I don't know if like I like his studio. I'll say studio tones, but I mean, Moving Pictures is awesome, and I really like his like Galen Kruger like solid state, 3 compressors in a row, all the delays, all the reverbs. That makes me happy. But I do like his using Kettner stuff, like from the later albums and that too. I think it's cool. There's something about using Kettner, like the way they're dialed in. When I play through the amp, I'm always like, yeah, it sounds good. And it could just be the sensibility or the tone they're going for. But I always feel like I don't know if it's not really for me, but it sounds good. It's not like it's bad. It's all there. Just it's voiced, at a, I don't know, maybe the resonant frequency of the mid range is just in a different place. Oh, okay. Soundstorm. I noticed a while back you upgraded your monitoring to the SEM25A. They're ATC monitors. Do you use any room correction? I've recently tried the IK Multimedia Arc Studio with my SEM20 ASLs, also ATC monitors, and it's fantastic. Yeah, dude. All right, here you go. Yeah. Anyone that is you're like mixing or like really relying on your speakers, I think it's the greatest $300 you could spend. It's unbelievable. It's really natural, zero latency. I'm working on a video of it just because I think it's like a great tool. It's the most boring video I've ever made. There's no guitar, there's no music. Like, how do you show, hey, my studio, what I'm hearing sounds better? That's all I could kind of say. But it's phenomenal. It uses this little microphone. Oh, look. It uses this little microphone that comes with it. So you get the microphone and the Arc Studio for like $300. And then the software runs you through. You point the microphone here, then you move it here, 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 all around the place until you do, it's like 25 little, where it captures its blip loops, processes it, and then it shows you what the frequency response of your room is, and then it does a correction. It doesn't do 100% correction because that sounds really unnatural and weird, but it gets you into a place where you're like, oh, you fixed this little scoop at 2K, or you fixed this 12 dB bump at 60 hertz in the subs, and now I could really hear where the low end sits and stuff. It's great. I highly recommend it. Middle Pickup says the X88 IR will be like an IRX or a rack. It's a full rack unit. At a glance, you wouldn't even, you go, oh, this guy has an old Soldano. I mean, they don't, there's new switches and stuff added to it, but you would just go, look at that dude with the cool rack. Oh, yeah. Dave says that the Little Labs IVP will do it. Will manage your phase or fix the phase. So there you go. You can still ask Dave on Ask Dave. There are some rumors about an X99 reissue cooking. Feels a bit far-fetched with an X88RR coming, but that would be amazing. That would be amazing. I don't know. It's like we're still waiting on that X88R. I don't know. I know they have so many things that they're working on at once, so I don't know. I'd be surprised if he's even thought more than a brief drip drop of something beyond those. Saving up for Pink Taco. Yeah. That's a rock machine. Those are so good. Have I tried the Palmer Supreme Soaker? You really want to grab one, Chris Vella. I haven't. I'm trying to get my hands on one without having them send me one. They offered to, but it's big, for one. I'm not like jonesing for a new load box, really, necessarily. And I'm definitely not jonesing for an analog cab simulator because I know I won't use that. So, you know, I'm trying to find someone that has one around town so I could just try it with a sort of non-committed arm's length approach. I don't know, maybe if I could get one and I just have to do an honest review on it. Like I try to be honest of it, but I don't want to do reviews. I don't like doing reviews that are like, I don't like this. Like here's a product this company put a lot of work effort into, and I don't think you should buy it. Not to say that the Supreme Soaker is, because like I said, I have not tried it. But if I feel like maybe I'm going down that road and I'm not excited about the product, like I'm not that excited to like dive in. I mean, more and more, it's hard to find time to do the videos and stuff. So, you know, I wanted it to be fun. Oh, Raccoon. Oh, what did I think about the Vertex Stan Huff interview? Your interviews too. I got to make sure this is the right. Maybe that's. I don't know if that's John or not. Session. But I thought it was amazing, and also check it. I got to find the other channel. Is it called Session Stories? Sorry, John will kill me. Session Solos. Okay, no, sorry. Yeah, go check out Session Solos. Also, there's like more Dan Huff stuff, and that was, I think, the Session Solos interview mixed with the Vertex interview, where was like this really beautiful sort of love letter to, you know, one of the best studio guitar players that's ever lived. Have I used the Arc Studio with a sub as well? Yes, that's how I'm using it now. Yeah, it's great. Actually helped a lot with the sub because of the whole crossover situations and things like that. Jim McDougall from South Africa. Hello. Oh, nice. Thanks. Can the Plex do metal? Metal. kind of a broad term. Yes? Yeah, you see Plexis and Metallicas in the back of their documentaries and stuff all the time. So yeah. It's not going to go drum, 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 drum. And there's no effects loop, so it's like you can't really sculpt it in that way. I don't know. Maybe the answer is no. Get a BE 100 for metal. I mean, so you have world is your oyster if you want to play metal. Man, I gotta yell at my dogs again. Marshall says, "Hey, are Tyler guitars worth the high price? Thanks for great content. Thank you, man. Appreciate that." Um, yeah, okay, so this is my answer for anytime quality products have a high price. And someone says, "Are they worth it?" Yeah, totally worth it. Should you take out credit card debt or mortgage your house to get one of these things? Absolutely not. If you can afford it and it's in your wheelhouse, you should definitely check it out. Have found that in most cases, like the reason for the high price is one is sort of like the level of expertise that went into it or the level of quality. Um, Sometimes it's just the demand, but if the reason is the level of expertise and the level of quality, then yeah, it's kind of worth it. Like, is a Les Paul, like custom shop kind of Les Paul, worth 10 grand? It's like, sure, it is if you could afford it. Like, it's gonna be a killer guitar, and the is a Tyler equivalent to $1,000, let's say Warmoth build. Um, it's a guitar. Oh yeah, you could play the same songs on it. If you could play something on a Warmoth, you could play it on the Tyler, and vice versa. Um, I think that the Tylers have a distinct neck feel um, that I haven't really felt in other things. It's just the ingredients and how they put it together, like those choices. Like, oh, that feels like a Tyler. It's kind of how they round the edges. It's how much lacquer they take off the back of the neck, the shape of the neck, um, and their pickup selection choices. Their electronics have a big effect on the sound. Do they do everything? Like if I was going to play super metal, like I would spend my money maybe on in something else. But if I want to get that array of sort of 80s and 90s studio tones, it's got them, and they they're all in there. Yeah, they're really great. So yeah, kind of it's worth it if you could afford it, but you know, don't hurt yourself. Oh, Dave says it's tight for sure. I mean, he would know. I played the Plex at NAMM and he built it, so can the Plex do metal? That sounds like a video YouTube short. All right, note to self. Is the Pink Taco a good pedal platform? Not for distortions, but pumping it up with overdrives and other effects in front. You've got a basement for clean tones. I mean, if you like putting your effects into like a heavily overdriven sound, I'm guessing you picked Pink Taco because it does that. Well, I'll say high gain, but it's like Van Halen gain, and well, it goes a little beyond that. But if you're using it for there, like I don't personally like to send delays and choruses and stuff into that level of drive. Can it take it in the Pink Taco? Pink Taco will do all that, but it's just a technical issue of like, is that how you like to run your effects. It has a great effects loop, so you can do that. And you can totally push it with overdrives and stuff, like if you wanted to keep the gain down lower. Yeah, it sounds awesome. Sounds really great. I had a few grand to spend. I just like that idea anyway. Shiva 20th or diesel VH2. Are they sitting like under 2 grand? Is that the diesel VH2? Let me see if I can play this game. Oh, well, that's 3 grand. The VH2 is 3 grand. You've opened this up to basically like an option of every amp on the block. When you're talking about like three grand. All right, how much is a Shiva? Shiva 20th. That's 2 grand. Oh, maybe used. All right, let me see here. I'm gonna go used. Diesel VH2. Okay, I see one for like $2,200. All right. Hang on, I gotta look at a couple others here just for my own pine grapes. You can't get a BE100 used for 2 grand. All right. For 2 grand, I mean, they're kind of different. I'm guessing you like sort of that thick, solid sound, because that's what as I think about the Shiva and the diesel, like what they have in common. And they both have a sort of like I don't mean this in a bad way, just, trying to find the characteristic. They have like a stiff characteristic to them, where you have to kind of work to get to like make the tone sing and stuff like that, which is all good. Like it's however you like to play. I don't know. I would say if you're more metal inclined, just like in terms of the tonality, if you go more metal, more I would go maybe the diesel. And if you're more rock inclined, I would go more Shiva. Like Foo Fighter, I would maybe go more Shiva. Tool, I would go more diesel. What are the pros and cons of using a reactive load to capture and profile? Well, it kind of sounds different. I mean, capturing and profiling is all it's like a dark art. It's really weird. There's some stuff that you're like, why won't this work? It's trying to capture a nailer, which sort of has a fuzzy characteristic to the amp anyway. And just like, bunch came out like garbage. You gotta just try everything, and then so sometimes it's better to plug into maybe even like a 112 cab as the load, shoot it into the ground. So I can't say it's, well, the pros is that it's quiet-ish, because crank 100 watts into the load box, you're still going to be hearing it right next to you, singing through the tubes. But the cons are more of what capturing and profiling is like. You just have to keep trying different ways to see how close you could get. Oh, like Tyler's cost like twice as much as some servers, and well, it's like it comes down to this. Like, I don't mean this it's not directed at you, and I don't mean any offense to anyone. Like, a company's got to charge what they got to charge to survive. There's a lot of work that goes into these guitars, and some of the companies can't scale up to like a Fender level and pull in huge economies of scale like Fender and stuff. And so either, if they make 10 guitars a month, they're going to cost a shit ton because if they don't cost that, they're not going to survive. Like, how can they live and continue to do that? So the option is either they have to price it what they can price it at, or they won't be making the guitars and they're not an option anymore. And then someone will come in, buy the company, and then neuter it, and they'll just like farm out, and you'll get like way lesser made mass scale versions with a name on the headstock. And like, that's no fun. So yeah, I kind of feel like, I think it's awesome that some things are a little out of reach. And I'm not saying that because like, oh, I could get it and you can't get it. Like, there's stuff I can't get. Like, I'd love to have a Collings acoustic and stuff. Like, I can't get it. I can't justify it. My kids eat too much. But the good part about the Tylers too is like, there are used Tylers, and then you could get a Tyler, and if you don't like it, you could sell it. There's a big market for them. And there's like an art aspect to them, especially when with the finishes and the schmears and stuff like that. So I think there's something cool about like, you find that one, you're like, that's the color scheme I want, and that's how the paint dripped. It just is what it is, and there's only one. That's the one I want. How come I don't have a Shiva? Seems like you would. I used to have a Shiva. I had a Shiva when I used to play in bands. It was cool. The reason I didn't have it anymore is for what I was saying, is like, I don't feel like the Shiva it doesn't have a snappy, fast attack. It's a bit of a slower attack. It's a little more compressed. And where I really enjoy the amps is when you go gunk, and it's like you just feel every aspect of that like attack happening. And you feel the high end, and you could control that. And I had, I can't remember what I had a Classic 50, PV Classic 50, and a Top Hat and Plexador at one point, and I used those together. And I think I sold those and got the Shiva. Still wasn't thrilled. I think before all that, I had a dual rectifier, and then I had a Fender Tone Master. I think that's what it was called. And then I had a Top Hat Ambassador, which I loved. It was a combo, a 212 combo, super heavy, 6v6s, I think 4 6v6s. It was super loud and could be super bright. And I'd run a way huge Red Llama into it, and it was awesome. And then that was the last thing I had with my band before it disbanded. And then I went through a bunch of stuff. Like, I had the Deliverance when I was just focusing on scoring and stuff. I had a dual rectifier, the Deliverance, which I still have. I had a diesel VH4, which I used a lot. And then I just kind of got bored. I don't know if that's the right word. I used it a lot. And I just wanted something else. And I sold it to get my BE100. And I was very happy with that. And I still have that BE100. I don't know. One day I'd like to get another VH4 again, I think. Desert Island rig, 1 guitar, 1 amp. The 1 guitar would probably be this. This is what I play all the time. My Shabbat. This is the latest Shabbat I have, and it's just been I've been dialing in what I want and what I love about all the guitars that I have, and this neck is like near perfect. This other Shabbat, my other blue Shabbat with humbuckers, is the perfect neck, but it's very hard to get it exactly the same. And there's other factors, like one has a Floyd, and the other has a more traditional Godot. So like everything changes the feel. So maybe they are the same, but the other things are causing the changes in the feel. But that's my favorite for what I'm playing right now. And an amp probably would be the Friedman Little Sister, because it really just like it's phenomenal and does everything great. Like I could get heavier and more gainy, and then really does clean really great, and it's light. I think it would look good on an island. But there's a lot of options, and it depends on my mood. Have I checked out Tonocracy software yet? It uses NAM capture tech and can play other NAM captures. Yeah, I did a little self demo just to try it out, and it was good. I got a little like I'm a little burned out on learning new software, to be honest. And it just kind of like hit me of like, I don't want to learn another software interface. And it's fine. I don't want to capture another format of things. I just, it's like I have access to those things. Like I mentioned before, like if I wanted to get this CAE3 plus SE tone without having to set up a whole rig, I could just go do it. And then I could switch to the Bogner fish and I could do it. And it's fine. And I'm happy to, and it works to where I'm like, yeah, I'm getting that thing. Unless I'm going to spend a week with that tone, then I want to use the real thing, right? But I already have that in I have it in Kemper, I have it in Tonex, I have it in Overlap THU, and so doing another one, it's just like I can't. I'm not there. The technology would have to go so far ahead, and I do think the NAM captures are maybe the best. So it's great, but the other thing is like Macs are not set up to be doing these captures. You need a PC, or you need to buy Google processing farm power and stuff. It's like my brain, I'm done. Dun, 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 dun. Marshall, do I own a Tyler? Yes. This is my Tyler. Would I own a Tyler if Michael Landau and Dan Huff had not played Tylers? Probably not. But I mean, that's why Fender and Marshall exist, I think, because of the number of people that have played them. Let me see where I'm at here. Oh, man, I'm sorry. I missed Chandler. Hey, Chandler, thank you for the super chat. How do you like the Lynx interface on your desk? I love it. I'm using the Aurora N. It's like N with parentheses. It's phenomenal sounding. There's no fan, which is huge. The headphone amps in the headphone amps sound fantastic, and they have a lot of level, but more so they sound fantastic. There's tons of IO options. It's really great. I would buy it again in a heartbeat. The only bummer, but I needed the IO. I didn't need to have like 4 preamps built into it because I have preamps here. Um, sometimes it's like, oh, it'd be so easy to just to plug in the front of my interface, which it doesn't do. You have to have your other situations there. But yeah, I love the sound very much. All right, I want to make sure I don't miss this. Tone Talk. Thanks, man. Ever play a Marshall Vintage Modern? What do you think? KT66 is my gravel and love the channel thing. Thank you. I think that's Mark. Thanks, buddy. I have when they came out and at Guitar Center. So, I was in the Guitar Center room playing it, and this is ages ago. The same room that I ended up picking up the Deliverance. I like KT66s. I think they're, if I'm assigning the tonality of an amp to the tube, which if you talk to Steve Fryette, he'll say like that's not a thing. The amp designer can make the tubes sound like what they kind of want the amp to sound like, and he might be right, because if you play a Friedman EL84 20-watt amp, like he sounds like a big ass British amp. Plug into a Jakey Lee 20-watt, like EL84s, you would never go, oh, I get that EL. I hear the EL84s. And same with the Deliverance. Like, I don't think you would. It sounds like EL34s. It sounds like what they wanted it to sound like. So, but I'm gonna go back and say the KT66s, like Reinhold's, the Bogner. I just forgot what it was called. JB45. There's a little extra squish. There's a Dr. Z66 KT66 amp called, I think, the Route 66, where there's like a vintage bigness, kind of like in a bass breaker, blues breaker. I can't remember what they're called now. My brain's going. Bassman. I think they're good. But also, I think that's still in the era of the Marshall Fizz. So, I mean, it's going to have some of that Marshall Fizz. And I do remember that of the playing through it going like, yeah, I like this. It's cool. But it had like a fizzy, that the more modern Marshall top end Fizz. All right, let's do a couple more and then we'll wrap it up. Yeah, I super appreciate everyone coming and chatting. That's really cool. We did like an hour and a half. Really cool. I lost my place on the things. Reactive load. Talked about that. Okay, here we go. Sven, hey. Do I keep all your amps? Where do you see yourself in 10 years? Adding more amps? More amps. Do I keep them all? No, not really. No, I can't. I mean, I just can't. And well, it's a weird place to be, because in all honesty, like, I am super satisfied with my Friedman little sister. I could be done. Like, that's my jam. Or also the BE100 with the Dirty Shirley clean side. I could also be done with that. I love the Bogner XC 50-watt. Like, be super happy with the Deliverance. So, like, there's some things where you're like, yeah, this is doing a thing that it just gives me such easy access to. I think the Plex is going to be a hard one to say no to. But yeah, I have like 2 or 3 I'm in this mode. I'm not playing a lot of distorted stuff on it when I'm by myself. It's more like Michael Landau level of gain. So I'm using pedals because I'm just having a fun time with that. So I've got the Princeton up, right, and the Rev D25, and then the other room is where the Friedman little sister is, right there. So like that's kind of the level of gain I'm using right now, and I don't need 100 watts through a speaker at the moment, but I do like recording with 100 watts when it goes into a load box. I think it feels powerful. Maybe, I don't know. So what am I using for my practice setup? I've got this pedal board which I've put together and torn apart 1,000 times, and every time I get it put together, I have something I have to completely tear it apart for. So the practice rig is I've got the 412 here. I have the Bogner 50 Ecstasy. I have the Friedman B100, and I have the Rev D25. And it's just one of those will get plugged in right now. If I sit on the couch and I want to hear something, I have the Friedman little sister. And if I'm going to use headphones, I have the Hotone Impuro Mini. Where am I at? Yeah, Mini. The little orange one I did a video for. And that's such a good little practice tool because it has a drum machine in it, tuner, it sounds good. It's small, everything. It's really great. Angus, hey man. My grab and go pedal board is for just dad jams. I would love to be able to go play somewhere, but I just don't get enough time to consistently practice. And then my skill set goes, and I'm like, I could do this. And then it goes, I'm like, oh no, I can't do this. And then it's up. I'm like, I can't, no. It's hard to find the consistency to play just because of other work. Chicago. When you record your songs and using an amp sim software, are you recording stereo track? We used to double track to get the wider effect. If I'm using an amp sim software, well, I kind of know ahead of time where I'm going to put it. If it's a one part, it'll be dead center. If it's big rhythm tracks, I know they're going to go probably a big heavy left and right. So they'll be mono. If it's an affected part that has stereo stuff, I know it'll just be in the middle with stereo. And since it's an amp sim, you have lots of leeway to change as things go. Yeah, Angus has been posting more stuff. That's always good to see. He's so awesome. How did I run my Shiva? I think it was a 6L6 Shiva. I can't remember. And I had a 212, and I would just take that to shows and use the backline 412. And then I had a pedal board that weighed like 30 pounds because I just went to Home Depot and bought like this giant plank of wood and door handles, and then a riser made of more wood, and I had all kinds of stuff on it. Michael Torn made it. Hey, I don't think Michael Torn is in Los Angeles anymore. Favorite shop to buy Shabbats. There's Angel City Music, which is, in the scheme of things, down the street from Shabbat. My favorite shop is to buy it directly from Avi Shabbat, who I have all my Shabbats I've bought directly from them. Gotta admit, Shabbat's guitars are really good, very spendy, but very good. Yeah, they're really good. They're just such a small run, built by such a few number of people. Um, I love how Avi sets up the guitars. Um, yeah, really great. I love um, being able to personally interact with who's building the guitar. So you're like, this is what I want. Exactly this. Not, please don't take artistic license with a $3,000 guitar that I have to pay for. Like, please do what I'm asking you for. Or if I say, you know how to make a great guitar, please do your do something awesome. That's fine. But if I'm saying, but this part I'm very specific about, do that. Have I ever come across a marshmallow? I don't know what that means. Hey, Lawrence. Diesel stuff always sounded very refined to me, a little too polite. I like to wrestle with the amp. I get that. Little, he wants a little chaos. Yeah. Yeah, like the diesel sounded like a record. Like I would go and like, yeah, it sounds just like a record. And I think I was missing some of that um instant reaction and change that I get out of the BE100. That gives me that super touch sensitivity. And it still sounds like a record. Um, they're very different sounding amps. Michael Lenhoff. Oh, thank you very much. NAM captures sound good, but it's not just like something easy everyone can do. It's a drag, the processing and stuff. Does the little sister have that quick tight attack you mentioned? Yeah, I feel that way. I think the video I did for represents it pretty well. Um, Maybe the little sister has less tight attack. If you want tight attack, quick tight attack, um, the Jake Friedman Jake is probably the most fast responsive, instant, whatever word that I've heard. Anything I'm practicing guitar wise these days? Yes. Um, I starting January. I saw a guy playing Bach etudes on a Telecaster through a Sur amp and a 412, and it sounded amazing. So I liked him, and I commented like, "This is awesome," and he replied back. He's like, "Oh, I'm so psyched to see you. Like, I love your channel." And I was like, "Whoa, hey, did we just become best friends?" And his name's Noel Johnston. He's a musician in North Texas that's unbelievably good, and he's a brilliant teacher. And he's like, "You know what? I'm starting a class if you're interested in like joining in." And I was like, "Well, you know, I am, but like there's a lot of time commitment to do it. I don't know. Sometimes I can't practice. It's 2 days a week for like 3 hours plus, and you have to commit to the whole year. It's like, all right, I'm just gonna do it. So it's like it's really intense because I know and it's a group. It's not just me. And if you're interested in joining in, it's not too late. You could always email me. I could put you in touch with him. It's one of those guys that I was not like this. Like if you found a scale, you're like, cool, I'll use that today. He goes, cool. I'm also going to find every version of this everywhere on the neck, every inversion, every pattern. It's just like how his brain goes. And he's like, I'm going to write it all down. He's written a bunch of books. He's a brilliant teacher, able to take super complex things and simplify them. And you go, oh, that's all that was. So it's been great. So what am I practicing? practicing. I just went back to the beginning. I'm like, I'm gonna relearn my scales the way he is saying, because it makes more sense to me. And instantly is like, that makes way more sense to me. And the way he builds chords on guitar in these really interesting extensions and stuff, and then inversions and inversions up and down the neck. And yeah, I mean, it's great. So I'm just kind of going back through it and practicing as much as I can. But yeah, if you're interested, hit me up and I'll point you over to Noel. He's great. It's been life-changing. There's even some of my recent demos, like I couldn't have done that. I wanted to do it and I'm getting closer to where I want to play, but I couldn't have done that if I hadn't put in this work to kind of expand my guitar playing to where I'm trying to get it to go. Oh, thanks, Lawrence. It's so nice for you to come by. What's up, my Robert Baker? Thank you. Thanks, guys. Middle pickup ask. Is it when I was saying the NAM captures, is NAM neural? No, so I wish neural DSP hadn't used the name neural. They kind of just snuck in, and it would be like an amplifier company calling their brand Tube Amp. Neural DSP is one company. They're the Quad Cortex. They have their own kind of captures. There's Kemper, there's Tonex, Neural DSP. Then there's this open source freeware called NAM. It's neural captures, same kind of concept. I think a lot of people just pull from that. You could just take the open source and put it into your product and reskin it. I'm not sure. Maybe Tonex has done a little of that. That's what this other Tonocracy is leaning on. I know the Saint Rock, that'll play back the NAM captures, but in order to do it, you have to do the capture. It's fine to do the capture, but then to process it into a NAM preset profile, whatever you want to call it, it requires a special DSP, which I have a top of the line Mac Pro. That can't do it. It would take like 2 days to process one amp sound. So literally you have to log into Google. Google has processing farms in the middle of somewhere in the world, and you buy processing power. And this is what like startup companies do and stuff too, where you'll buy 3,000 units of processing, whatever that is. And then you upload your file and you use their farm computers that are massive supercomputers. And then you just pay it's like Pornhub for computer programming. You pay your money and then you get to, no, what's that other one? Not Pornhub. What is it called? OnlyFans. It's Google processing OnlyFans. You could pay money so you could use their processor and see what they got in there. Yeah. That you could just Google the NAM amp captures. It's out there. They sound good, and there's a bunch of people that have made them, and they're free. One of the best amp sims are just free, laying out there. Doesn't look nice. It's a little weird. I don't know. My worry too is that like there'll be a version change, and I can't recall something. It's just gone. Tim Connors, what a demo soon. Oh, thanks, man. That's very generous of you. I am up to my ears in things to demo at the moment, so I do appreciate that, though. That's very nice of you. Robert, you made me really want to kind of teach around here to try and get better. I was thinking of it too. I mean, there's a level that I could teach. I just don't know I think I would give one lesson and be like, dudes, I'm sorry, I gotta cancel on everybody. I'm never doing this again. I'm so busy. But man, I think teaching and stuff is such a great practice. It's like a commitment. I think that's the biggest thing is me like going, okay, I have no choice. I gotta learn this stuff. Amp X by Blue Guitar. Yeah, I had the Blue Amp 1 for a long time. That was sort of like my nice practice amp that I enjoyed. Um, it's a little solid statey, which it doesn't bother me, but when I go back to the little sister, I go, yeah, well, I prefer that. So I hope he's got it worked out because I mean he's brilliant and yeah, I like Thomas and I like all those things he's made. Oh, Robert Baker, find a teacher. Well, I mean, you teach all day long in your class, so I thought you were, or on your channel. I mean, you're a great teacher. There's a couple guys like the way they talk, like the way you teach, you make me feel like, oh, I can do that. That's that's really nice. I think you're a phenomenal teacher. But yeah, also finding another teacher is pretty fun and humbling. And I took some lessons with Sean Ash last year, who's a monster player. And it's just different styles and stuff, and it's so humbling when you're like, "Oh God, you're so good, so good." Yeah, yeah. So he's another great guy. I thought he was more in line, like really dialed into teaching technique and some important things that I still use from him too. So he's good. Oh yeah, but Noel Johnston is great for those who dabble with theory. Yeah, even if you're just a little theory curious, he's he's brilliant. All right, gang. I think that's all I can talk. Words. I gotta go drink some tea. Who am I kidding? I'm just gonna have another coffee. All right, gang. Thank you so much for joining. That was so nice of y'all. I appreciate it. All right, you guys are best, and I'll talk to you next time I get on here. See you.